It was October 1949, and Mao Zedong stood at the gate of heavenly peace in Beijing and proclaimed the birth of the People's Republic of China. Years of warfare and ideological struggle had reached their peak. This moment of triumph was the result of a relentless journey that transformed Mao from an aspiring revolutionary to the leader of the world's most populous nation. The declaration came after decades of political chaos, shifting alliances, betrayals, and war, reshaping China's identity at a huge cost. Mao Zedong was born to a peasant family in the southern province of Hunan in PRC in 1893, in the last years of the Qing dynasty. At that time, China was weakened by internal conflicts and the external pressures applied by European powers and Japan, a period described by historians as the Century of Humiliation. The dynasty, thus placed under such great stresses, finally fell in 1911. This was succeeded by the Republic of China. The new government struggled to establish stability against warlordism and political fragmentation. Mao grew up witnessing this chaos firsthand and began to shape his political vision. After being disappointed by the failures of the Republican government, Mao became interested in Marxism upon the knowledge of the Bolshevik victory in Russia. In 1921, he became a founding member of the CCP intent on mobilizing the peasantry, a class often overlooked by other political factions. The early years of the CCP were marked by strategic alliances, brutal betrayals, and conflict with the Kuomintang, KMT, led by Chiang Kai-shek. The alliance between the CCP and the KMT was part of a bigger process of unifying China and resisting foreign powers. In 1927, however, Chiang turned against the communists and initiated a bloody purge in Shanghai, killing thousands of people. Mao and the surviving members fled to rural areas, shifting their focus from city-based labor movements to peasant-led insurgency. The retreat period set up conditions for Mao's unique campaign plan based on guerrilla warfare and grassroots support. In the early 1930s, the CCP was in a constant struggle with the KMT. The communist situation improved significantly with the Long March of 1934 to 1935, a 5,000-mile strategic retreat through harsh terrain that cost many lives but solidified Mao's leadership and became a symbol of resilience. This march rebuilt morale and connected the CCP with more distant regions, allowing Mao to solidify his ideas and gain control of the party. The civil war between the CCP and KMT intensified in the early 1930s, and the Japanese invasion of Manchuria in 1931 turned into a full-scale war by 1937. The Second Sino-Japanese War brought a temporary truce between the CCP and KMT to face the greater outside threat. While Chiang's forces bore the brunt of the fighting, the CCP used guerrilla tactics and won the loyalty of more peasants by promoting land reforms and social justice. By the end of World War II, therefore, the Communists had increased both manpower and support in preparation for the next phase of the Civil War. The defeat of Japan in 1945 restarted hostilities between the CCP and the KMT. By this point, Mao's strategic skills had positioned the Communists advantageously. The KMT, weakened by years of war, corruption, and low morale, faced a determined and united CCP. By 1949, the Communists had captured valuable territory, forcing Chiang's forces to retreat to Taiwan. On the 1st of October 1949, Mao declared the formation of the People's Republic of China, an announcement that signified not just military victory, but a major change for the country. The first years of Mao's rule were focused on unification and reform. He reshaped the country through major land redistributions, breaking the feudal structures that had controlled much of the country for centuries. Literacy campaigns and health initiatives greatly improved national literacy and public health, increasing life expectancy and reducing infant mortality. Yet beneath these achievements lay the seeds of policies that would bring widespread suffering. In 1958, Mao launched what he called the Great Leap Forward, an extremely ambitious plan to quickly modernize China and surpass Western industrial powers. It involved collective farming and creating rural communes to boost both agriculture and steel production. However, local officials, fearing punishment for not meeting impossible targets, falsified production numbers. These inflated reports led to state redistribution policies that created severe shortages. A major part of this campaign was the Four Pests campaign, which wrongly targeted sparrows as harmful pests, disrupting the environmental balance and worsening crop damage. Alongside poor planning and bad weather, these policies triggered a famine from 1959 to 1961. It is estimated that 30 to 50 million people died, making it one of the deadliest famines in history. Reports of starvation were suppressed, and Mao insisted on projecting an image of progress, refusing to acknowledge the crisis. Those who spoke out faced harsh punishment, including imprisonment and execution. The Great Leap Forward's failure weakened Mao's influence within the party. Leaders like Liu Shaoqi and Deng Xiaoping rose to prominence by introducing more practical policies to stabilize the economy. Temporary reform replaced extreme ideology. Mao saw these changes as threats to the revolutionary spirit. Determined to regain control, he launched the Cultural Revolution in 1966. The Cultural Revolution was Mao's attempt to remove capitalist and traditional elements by mobilizing millions of young people known as the Red Guards. With Mao's support, they attacked intellectuals, destroyed historical artifacts, and accused party officials of being counter-revolutionaries. Schools were closed and chaos spread as Red Guard groups started fighting among themselves. Millions were accused of political betrayal, imprisoned, tortured, or killed. Social order collapsed, and the economy suffered as normal life became impossible. By 1968, the Cultural Revolution had descended into uncontrollable violence, and Mao called on the People's Liberation Army to restore order. The brutal crackdowns that followed deepened the trauma of a society already fractured by fear and extreme ideology. The decade-long turmoil left lasting scars on the nation's psyche and disrupted generations of social and cultural development. When Mao died in 1976, an era of extreme revolutionary ideals and massive human suffering came to an end. His death led to a power struggle within the CCP, eventually resulting in the rise of Deng Xiaoping, who steered the country toward economic reform. Deng's policies, which adopted capitalist ideas that Mao had opposed, lifted millions out of poverty and transformed China into an economic power. However, this progress was built on the foundations that Mao had laid, despite his flawed and often brutal push for change. Mao Zedong's revolution brought unity but also division, progress, and suffering. The Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution remain stark warnings about the dangers of unchecked power and extreme ideology. Mao's legacy continues to shape China, marked by rapid growth but haunted by memories of famine and political violence. Understanding this history is important for understanding modern China, where the past continues to influence the present. If you enjoyed this story of how some of the most monumental changes to modern China took place, subscribe to stay tuned for more stories about the real turning points in history. Discuss in the comments and share your thoughts on how the lessons of history reverberate into the modern world.